Our session today is on the art and science of strategic planning. Today, we will learn the 7 steps towards building a strategic plan. We'll discuss the difference between proactive and reactive planning. And we'll talk about some other things too. A strategic plan is a map to guide you between 2 points: where you are, your present reality, and where you'd like to be, your future reality. Put differently, you might ask the questions in this way: who am I? Whom do I want to become? What must I do to fill this gap? What is our organization today? What would we like for it to become? And what things must we do so we can get there? In other words, planning strategically, not by accident, but by design. Every organization goes through several important phases. I'd like to show you what those are, and as you see them, examine in your own mind's eye where you may be right now. Let me draw a little something on the board. The first stage in the life of every organization is what we call the entrepreneurial stage. That is where you conceptualize an idea. That is where you have a vision and a dream. And we might say that stage is somewhere right here. We haven't yet begun anything. We're just sort of talking about it and thinking about it and dreaming about it. The entrepreneurial stage. Almost every great organization came out of an idea somewhere. An idea brought forth by some entrepreneurial spirit. Second stage is what we call the growth stage. If the idea is a good one, then what happens to it is it takes off. People begin to buy from you, more people begin to join you in this effort, and you begin to grow. And of course, with the growth pattern come all kinds of growing pains. Change is demanded of you, adjustment is demanded of you, but growth is fun, growth is exciting, growth is positive, growth is very motivating. Because when you get up in the morning, you see things happening. Here's the part I'd like to focus on. Next stage is what we call the maturity stage. You had an idea and you put it to work and it took off. But it cannot keep taking off. When you want to go on a trip, you first get on the airplane and you are at land level. You're right there, smooth on the airport. Then what happens? The airplane picks up speed and the airplane takes off in the sky, like the growth stage. Eventually, though, the pilot will come on the microphone and say, we are now cruising at such and such a level. That's the maturity stage. It implies on a trip that this is as high as we're going to go. It implies in a business that this is our best at this moment. The trouble, my friends, is your business cannot stay here. One of 2 other things will happen. Either your business must have another growth pattern. We call this renewal. If this is the comfort zone, if this is the maturity, if this is complacency, what happens after that? One of 2 things. One is called renewal. We will begin all over again like we did down here with the idea, maybe more ideas, more change, more excitement, more education, more training. And we take off again with a sense of renewal. Or it is very possible that something else takes place. The organization begins to go in a downward fashion like this. Now, isn't that sad? Organizations just begin to go downhill slowly and surely. Here's what cannot happen. What cannot happen is you're not going to go on forever in the stage we call comfort zone. This is not a possibility. Either this is going to happen or this is going to happen. The choice is entirely yours. All those stages are the actual stages that happen in the life of a company. That's why strategic planning is important. If this company strategized somewhere in here during the growth pattern, then they would have possibly kept away from too much of this. This might still take place, but it might take place in a shorter speed, only this much. And then they would have taken off again. And then maybe one more time you do this, and then again, and like this, and again. But look at the direction. It's going onwards and upwards in a positive movement. Instead of going up, then straight, and down, maybe up again, maybe down again. Strategic planning gives us a map to show us how to go from here to here in a prescribed fashion and in accordance with our goals, our plans, and our strategy. I like to say that in every organization, profitability in your company is dependent on two basic items. Those are productivity and performance. In other words, productivity plus performance equals profitability. What is productivity? Productivity is output over input. It's the results that we get because we've put all these resources to work. So a simple example might be, if you want to determine the productivity of one of your salespeople, you ask the question, how much investment have we put in this person? How many days has this person put into calling on prospects? And how many sales has this person gotten for us? And what kind of a ratio are we getting? And if it's not a good ratio, how can we improve the productivity of this person? Obviously, it's easy to measure the productivity of a machine. But a human being, it's tougher. But if you don't know how productive your people are, you are not strategically planning for a better future. What does performance mean? Performance only means this. Are your people behaving in accordance with your strategic plan? That's what performance is. If I say, are you a good manager? What do I mean by that? Those are subjective terms. I mean, are you performing in accordance with the strategic plan that we have in this company? If this is our plan, and these are the steps in the plan, your performance will be measured in accordance with how well you are meeting those steps. Productivity plus performance equals profitability. I often say to business executives that your profitability depends on your ability to manage risks. Risk management is at the heart of profitability. I don't mean by risks just money risks. I mean people risks and process risks and planning risks and advertising and merchandising and marketing. You name it. You manage the risks, your profitability is going to be much better than if you just sort of got up in the morning and said, hey, this is a nice day. Why don't we just go to work and let's see, what should we do today? We'll begin here and go to here and here and here. It will be equivalent to you getting in your car, wanting to go on a trip. You know where you want to go, but you don't know how to get there. So you just begin driving, hoping somehow you will get there. In fact, you may get there, but it may take you a long time. It may cost you a lot of gasoline, and it will frustrate you and tire you in the process. On the other hand, if you said, we want to go here, this is where we are, let's look at a map and decide what is the shortest distance and the shortest route to go from here to here. And along the journey, I'll know if I am on the right road or not. How would I know? I check against my strategic plan. I check against my plan to see if I am doing the things I need to be doing. Strategic planning can be either reactive or it can be proactive. Reactive means starting with the present circumstances and plotting a future based on these circumstances. You know, companies and people who do that, they say, this is where we are, This is what's happening. These are our problems. These are our opportunities. Now, based on these circumstances, let us plan a future. That's called reactive planning. The better way, the more dynamic way, the more effective way is proactive. What does that mean? Proactive means starting with the desired future, with your vision of the best, and then setting goals for achieving this vision. It's you sitting back and saying, if I had it my way in my company, what would it look like? Coming up with that vision, then saying, what must I do to get me there? Not encumbered by the excess baggage of what I have today, but motivated and inspired by the possibilities that lie ahead of me. Now you're asking, okay, how do we do that? How do we strategize? What are the steps involved in strategic planning? I'd like to share them with you. There are 7 steps to strategic planning. The first one is this: create a vision. I just said proactive planning is the best, which means deciding that vision. So then the first step is to create that vision. Create a vision. What do you want your company to be like in 10 years from now, regardless of present circumstances? What would you like to be 5 years from now, regardless of today's limitations? Come up with that vision. See it, feel it, enjoy it. Here's the second step in strategic planning. Determine your present circumstances. Because you see, even though you may have that vision, you are still encumbered with what is today. And you have to be keenly aware of that. And here's what I mean by determining your present circumstances. You must determine 4 basic elements that will tell you where you are today. These elements are your strengths. Specifically and accurately determine what your strengths are. Your weaknesses. Carefully but accurately list all the weaknesses that you are facing today. Your opportunities. What are all the opportunities that lie ahead for you and your company and your product? And the threats. What are the threats that keep you from doing the things that you want to do? Or the threats that lie ahead, should you do these things, what are you afraid might happen? Your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and the threats that lie in the marketplace. For example, a competitive threat. If we were to do this, what might our competition do in response? And how might that hurt us? What impact might that have on our business? When you determine those 4, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you then determine your present circumstances. So create your vision and determine your present circumstances and ask a lot of questions. Ask questions like, what kind of company are we? What products do we offer? Who are our customers? Who are our competitors? What can we do better than these competitors? Ask as many questions as you choose. There could be 100 questions that can come to you through a brainstorming session. Here's the third step for strategic planning. Planning. Determine what will take you to your desired future. Determine what that is. What would take you to your desired future, that vision we talk about? What are those things that will carry you there, will move you there? Ask again a lot of questions. Ask questions like these. What market segments will we be serving? Who will our customers be? What products will we need to offer? What kind of employees do we need? What kind of management talent will we need? What financial resources will we need? What risks must we face? How will we manage these risks? What is the likelihood of success? These are just a few questions that come to my mind. But in your own mind, you may think of 100 more questions. But can you see, by asking questions, you can determine what those things are and what the results might be. And the 4th step, strategic planning, is this. Develop action plans to to bridge the gap between your present reality and your vision. Start with your desired future, remember? This is what you really would like to have. Start here and plan backward. Say, this is really what I'd like to be. This is really what we would like our company to become. And by the way, think of this in your own department. It doesn't have to be in your all over your organization. It can be just in the department for which you may be responsible. And say, how might I make my department more effective and more successful? And what strategic plan might I have for our own activities and procedures and plans for the future? You might set long range, intermediate, short range goals. You might set action steps, timetable to reach those goals. The point is, decide who will be accountable for each action. If strategic plans fail, they often fail because we don't assign specific activities to specific individuals. So we have this grandiose, this wonderful, this magnificent plan, but we have not assigned specifically who is responsible for every part of this plan. Who will monitor it? Who will do it? Who will report about it? And who will make corrections when corrections really are needed? You must develop measurable criteria for evaluating each step. If a strategic plan is to work, you must ensure that every step is measured, corrected, and the criteria are lived by. The fifth step is to implement the strategic plan. You've done all this work and all this homework. Now, how do you implement it? Put it to work. Assign it to people, assign timetables, but now actually put it to work. Make the necessary changes to make it happen. Number 6, evaluate your progress. Take a recess to reassess. Is it doing what I want it to do? Am I achieving the things I thought I'm going to achieve? And if I'm not, adjust. And if I am, celebrate the successes. Then the 7th step, strategic planning, to make those necessary changes to the systems and to the structure to achieve your plan. In developing your strategies, you can be either conventional or you can be inventive. You want to be inventive. Conventional strategies follow well-worn paths. This is the way we've always done it, based on what has worked in the past. But inventive strategies, those creative, innovative, inventive strategies break new ground. They also profit by experience. Past experience, experience of competitors, experience of watching what happens in the marketplace and in the world around us and about us. Strategic planning should encompass every aspect of your business. Some of my clients, for example, broke a strategic plan down into these areas. It doesn't mean you have to break yours in these areas, but this is merely an example. Break them into focus. What are they focused on? What is their focus? Talk about customers. Who are their customers? Satisfaction. How do we get people satisfied with us? People externally, customers. People who supply us, our vendors. People who work with us, our employees. Business focus, which is different than personal focus. Business focus, what markets do we want to be in? What future do we want to prescribe? Employee motivation, how do you ensure that your employees are with you? Are doing the things you want them to do? Motivation has to be renewed every day. People who did very well yesterday may not do very well tomorrow unless you constantly keep them excited and inspired. How about global leadership? One of my clients talks significantly and insensely about leadership in a global sense. How is our world coming together to work, to make good things happen? Market focus? Technology? How does technology affect your business today? And what might you have to do 5 years from now, 3 years from now, maybe even 1 year from now to accept and adapt to all these techno trends about us and around us? And many other things that you can think of in your business. strategic alliances, financial leverage. There's a whole list of those issues that impact who we are and what we do. In summary, my friends, let me say this. Strategic planning does not have to be academic. It does not have to be complicated. Determine where you want to be at some point in the future. Your vision of what can be. Determine where you are at present, today, with your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and the threats. Spell out that vision. Establish goals which will take you to your vision. Develop action plans to take you to those goals. Set timetables. Establish accountability. And develop systems of measuring progress. And as you succeed, celebrate those victories. The small ones that move you towards this vision. Because the future, your future, is very, very bright indeed.